Welcome back to the final days of Nationalist China. Fellow armchair generals, this is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of, yes you got it, Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 9.11, and of course we are playing as Japan. That's why it's the final days of Nationalist China. This is their current last capital, and I think their last Victory Point province. And we've got a big stack of units moving right towards it. Only one the armor is pursuing right now. And we're also pushing into the capital of whatever this is. Okay, we're gonna stop that. You'll just go on to defensive here, which is fine. Yunnan, we'll get that eventually. Oh, speed this up. Oh good, okay, now we have, well, mostly fast units, which aren't the best at taking down, what is this, mountainous provinces. But we don't want to let the pressure up on them, because this way these units will continue to get disorganized and whatnot. Oh good, an infantry unit. I know it's not very well organized itself, but just get in there. Oh, they're attached way up there. Okay, detach and attach to a more local HQ, that'll help. All of you guys can move in here to eventually move on the capital. You've got lots and lots of garrison units. Yes. Keep pushing in there. Around here. I'm gonna push there with them just to keep them a bit disrupted. I see there's also just HQs, but still. And let's add him there in good organization shape. Okay, and now since we see that it's going reasonably well, let's push into there. them. Okay, well. These guys should help the attack in the mountains. And these guys will be cannon fodder, just generally speaking. Yeah, we're hopefully going to overrun them pretty quickly. Well, let's bring some air power back in. Oh good, we've won that, so we may be pushing into their capital soon. Yeah, some infantry tanks, it'll... Okay, we got some more fighters. It was just asked, think by Nagaro, if I was going to fortify the islands up here to help maintain supply. I don't know why you're not getting supply. Hmm? Okay. We'll go out of Tokyo to... There you go, Sato 1. You should have supply, that's for sure. Why doesn't he have supply? I thought all these had been linked to supply for a long time ago. Okay, well, something's up. Well, what's the island name? Millie. Tokyo to Millie. Good thing I checked. I'll get reorganized and do that. Now, was I going to fortify these islands up? My general answer was not a no. Well, not planning on heavily fortifying them. That's for sure. Oh, you need Yap. That had been a German colony, I believe. That's not a German name, just I think that was... what I plan on doing is, Truk was a major naval base, as you can see here, is to probably put maybe a pillbox on each of these to give additional support over the coastal defenses, but not go heavy, and not go heavy with the garrisons. I am planning on adding or building some tropical island garrison type units as well, for some of these. Just seems to fit right. But those very well may end up, being on other islands than the, currently maintained ones. But something like this, yeah, I may, stick on a pillbox and a air base or something like that. My plan, generally speaking, surprised Yap doesn't have an air base, but is to use what I tried to do in the last series, and then I was informed afterwards, well, I really should have had 200 plus aircraft in a stack stuck on these bases, which very small or no, or well, they had to have some air base, but limited air bases to affect incoming shippings. I really like that you have, because I can put this on air intercept, and so we can redo this, hit here, air intercept. Okay, I'm going to air intercept anything in here. I like this better than the air zones, because I have my problems with the air zones. I like here better that we can specify which province, and each province can have its own air base and not based on the state, because sometimes the state will plot its air base from here and the state goes down to wherever the border, somewhere in here, Da Nang Hui. Okay, so it's north of here, so it's probably right about here. We'll go down to here for the state of North Vietnam or whatever, and I want an airbase down here because I want to operate further out here. If I don't, say, control South Vietnam, but want an airbase out here to do things. So it may not really matter so much whether it's here or here, and so yeah, but sometimes you get states that are big, and I want to operate over here instead of having an airbase in the, maybe logically in the center here. That means I have difficulty getting coverage out here, so I don't like that. I do love that it's individual aircraft as opposed to units, but there is a de facto unit setup, and in that I like this better, is that yes, I can throw up particularly these, or I could even throw up these guys and say, yeah, just interdict operations in this area, so any moving units, they'll attack. Moving units are a bit more vulnerable than in-placed units for air attack. So yeah, just sort of any moving units, go after. Well, you need to support that attack. No, actually you don't. You need to go there. We want to cut these guys off. And you want to support this. So I dislike the lack of sort of fine control. Like, oh, we're going to put all the air, I can shift all the air, not just as the way it seems to be. It's sort of like, oh, well, at any one, because look, I get the idea, and podcast idea, that air war is attritional. Okay. Especially on this scale of things. We're not playing War Thunder and fighting aircraft versus aircraft. It's attritional. I get that. And so, and since they did do sea zones, sea zone out here, and again, they're way effing too big. But yeah, let's say you got that. And okay, well, at any one time, operating even from the center of the sea zone with aircraft that can fully cover the region, okay. Well, there's only going to be 20% of the aircraft over this island. No, that's not the way it works. When they're sort of like out, flying reconnaissance, it sort of works that way. But if all the enemy ships are spotted here at any one time, all the all of your air is going to come in and attack the fleet. It's just going to do airstrike after airstrike after airstrike. Now, is it going to go kamikaze every time? No, not unless you have that mode and, the Japan's getting desperate. And so it may be like the Italian aircraft. I get some of my history from reading historical fiction. If I find a good author, and like one author, I got to where I would not read him in the 18th century historical fiction, but I would read his World War II stuff because it seemed matching with what I know from reading other history. It's sort of, he's doing a better job at historical research. And so from the descriptions, and I think these are based loosely at least on British, contemporary British naval descriptions, the German dive bombers coming in at or bombers generally, not always dive, but coming in at the ships, the British ships in the Mediterranean, the Germans would come in a lot closer and release their bombs. Sometimes it's level bombers, sometimes it's the light bombers, but they have dive brakes on and they're diving. They come in a lot closer, release their bombs, and pull away. Now, I don't know, and I'm not even suggesting that the Italian pilots, as pilots, were worse pilots. I'm not suggesting that at all. I will say often they had older, out-of-date airplanes, and so they're not as good as the German aircraft. And so that does matter. And so the Italians would come in and drop bombs on the British ships, and yeah, they might hit something, but they were much more inaccurate because even if you're a good pilot, the further you're away, and you can play War Thunder or something, the further you're away from it, the greater the spread of the bombs, the less likelihood that you're going to be right on target, and all of that kind of stuff. And also, if you also play War Thunder, and if you get sort of good and you see them coming in, you can often start to, if you time it well, start to move your destroyer in such a way that if they've set up properly on where you are and release at whatever altitude, you changing direction rapidly makes them miss. They just, even if they're doing it right, because they don't know if you're going to break right or left or whatever, so you can't even necessarily anticipate you. They could try, and do whatever. So were the Italian pilots not as brave or as dedicated as the German pilots? Well, you watched a lot of Italian pilots going up in an outdated aircraft to fight over North Africa and get shot down by the British. You might go, yeah, they're pretty brave. What I think it is bad leadership. If the squadron commander, who's supposed to command the squadron, hence the name, if he's just flying around up there saying, Giuseppe, you go in, and I'm going to give up trying to do Luigi. Okay, Luigi, your turn, and he's just commanding and telling him what to do. And maybe go lower, aim better. I don't know what he's saying. Or, but he's just commanding. Well, the pilots are going to go do sort of what they do. And that's not good leadership. It may be good organizational command, but it's not good leadership. What you need to do if you're attacking, and you can again watch the War Thunder videos or play War Thunder once they release the beta for the or release it out of beta for the warship stuff, and sort of get what it's like to fly into the tracers, and it's really instructive. I think we can talk about a lot of their very unhistorical things with War Thunder, like, oh, magically, after you fired all 4 of your torpedoes on your torpedo boat in 1 minute or 30 seconds or whatever the time is, magically you'll get new torpedoes. Yes. Or, oh, an enemy round, big 5-inch round, just smash through your gun turret. Well, in 2 minutes time, that gun turret will be back in action. Okay, so we can talk about a lot of the unhistorical things with War Thunder, and there are that. Very much so. But there's a lot of very historical stuff, too, with War Thunder. And I like that better. I like the damage models of not just hit points. They don't use a hit point system. They use, if you kill off all of the crew or whatever on a ship, it dies. Which, on a PT boat or in a tank, that would be death. Or if you kill enough of its systems, or if fire burns it down enough. And fire does maybe sort of work a bit like hit points, in that if it keeps burning, it keeps doing more damage. But it sort of does, one shot can hit and take out your Panzer IV from a Sherman. Or one shot can hit and do just a little bit of damage from the Panzer IV, depending on its trajectory. You get sort of learn to sort of lower your ammunition totals, and they normally keep it, unlike reality, again, non-reality, is they'll store it all down. They sort of stack from the bottom up, instead of course, they would have ammunition up in the turret for ready ammunition. So the idea that if you have less than full ammunition, there's less places to hit to explode the ammo. So if you hit and explode the ammo in the tank, you can have immediate boom, one-shot kill. But if you hit it with the same gun and punch through where, say, the co-driver / radio operator / bow machine gunner or whatever on the tank, boom, you've just damaged it. Now we can argue whether how much that is, would they keep fighting? Well, to some degree they most assuredly did, with wounds like that. The German tankers, as you famously talked about, were supposed to stay in the tank and keep fighting the tank until the tank was on fire, and then they could get the hell out. So, knock out one crew member, and no, you don't magically get new ones. So War Thunder's pretty good that way. So you can go in, and I'm sure there's other flying games. I'm not a big wanna-play flying whatever, so I don't normally buy or play those much. I'm getting it's been fun doing the ship stuff. That's been a bit different, and I love doing World War II tanks. So you can sort of see what it's like to fly into the flak. I think the flak may be a little too good, but so as you're coming in, and if it was really your life and also it's a valuable aircraft, you don't want to. You'd rather drop your munitions and get away, and then come back the next day and do it again and do it again and do it again, instead of do it on a suicide run, which you will have much more of that kind of stuff in War Thunder than you would in real life, of course. So that does take that into account. So, how close do you get into the ship before you release? So if you have a squadron commander who, say, gets within 500 feet or something, I'm just throwing that out there, and then releases his bombs, dives down to 500 feet, releases his bombs, and pulls up and away. Well, then the rest of the squadron, especially if he's ordered it, will fly down to 500 feet and release the bombs and pull away, because there will be enough people watching to see if somebody doesn't. And so you'll lose your flying slot and whatever, and so they'll come in. But if your squadron commander, who thinks he's good and thinks he's going to hit and doesn't want to die, but also wants to be successful, and hey, if I miss this time, I've got 6 more airplanes or whatever number it is behind me that are also going to fly in and drop the bomb, and one of us is going to hit, and all we need to do is one really good hit on a destroyer with a big bomb, and you more or less knock it out. It may totally take it out, a good hit right into the magazine and blows up and it's gone. But even if it doesn't totally take it out, it goes into the engine compartment and does enough damage. It still may be afloat and it still may have its guns, but it ain't driving anywhere. And it's leaking lots of water, even though you may close up watertight compartments, so it may stay afloat. But you've sort of mission killed the ship, and then of course you can come back tomorrow, or you can have a submarine come and find it, put a torpedo in it that is just drifting around the Mediterranean. So I sort of get the idea that you might just decide, oh well, I'm going to come into 1,000 feet and dive to that and drop my bomb, and we're going to go away. So the Germans would routinely come in closer, more aggressively to the British ships before they released and pulled out. I presume, I don't know, but I presume they had a higher damage rate to the aircraft, because not all hits are plunging you into the water. damage can be repaired depending on the, where it is and what it is, and if you can get the aircraft home. So the British Navy feared the Germans much more when they were coming over than the Italians. And I think it was a sort of a determination thing. That gets to the Japanese, they were as determined as anybody, and to eventually into the kamikaze situation. Now, of course, the Americans, well, they were as determined as anybody else, including the kamikazes, because you can see the Battle of Midway. Is this Midway? Yes, where an entire torpedo squadron gets shot down, and there's only one survivor who's shot down and in the water, and watches the rest come in and die, and then watches, because all the Japanese fighters are down low, watches the dive bombers come in and take out some of the carriers, sort of famously that he did that. And so they were, coming in one after the other and watching their fellows get shot down or whatever, so that they realized that this was not necessarily a suicide mission, but that this was extremely dangerous, and they were coming in for that. So you have various factors on how well your air will operate here, but they will all come in, and they will all make attacks, and they will all keep making attacks. Now, at some point, it may be determined that you have a big enough fleet with enough anti-aircraft guns that it just is not profitable to come in at all. And that was what the situation was with the American fleet at the end. It was so big coming after the Japanese, actually there were sort of a few of them, that it was just, okay, we're in a kamikaze, and even they were realizing, I don't know how much the guys back at home were realizing it, because not everybody was getting reports, but they were having super high attrition rates of the kamikazes. So okay, guys, you can come there, and you can come there. And so all of that matters. It matters in a big way. And that's what since I don't have that control as to like focus all of your air power on this fleet, because the Hearts of Iron 4, I do have that control if we get into here and micromanage, and if we spot an American fleet or spot an American invasion, I'm planning on at minimum vectoring all of the attack aircraft that are based around here, just presuming they're coming after Penelope here, or if they're coming after Millie or somebody like that, vectoring in all of the attack aircraft, and trying to vector in my carriers with their aircraft, and trying to sink the Americans. And that's what I'm planning on doing. We'll also see about doing some island invasions and that. Now, saying all of that, I do want it to be, and the Japanese were right, and that they should fortify, since, hey, you're sitting on that island, you're garrisoning it. The island is very valuable in that it's an air base and a supply base for ships and all of that good stuff. So it's a valuable thing. And so since you do need to you're going to have some troops on it, they might as well spend their time to fortify it. And they were right into say have enough troops to make it needed to not just have a Marine Raider battalion come in and smash up the airport and take it over. You've really got to assault it. But I'm not planning on stacking garrison troop, 2 or 3 garrison divisions to make an island fortress out to see if I can battle them off. No, I'm just wanting to make sure it's a decent enough battle that it takes just enough time for me to vector in my fleets and sink them. And if I vector in all my fleets, like sort of what I did on Hearts of Iron 4, and then have all my fleets sunk, this series is over. I'll let you know right now. Oh, but we invested all this time and we wanted to see you fight it out. Well, whether you think I'm going to come back from having my, not just a fleet, but, all my, my carriers and my battleships and, my core sort of fleet, if that gets sunk, well, you could rebuild. Yeah, but presumably they're building too. And they're also up-teching presumably well, and other things. So if I can't do it, it's either A, I'm not good enough to master getting the fleets in there to do that. And there was some problems that I had some settings bad on some of the early battles for the Japanese fleet. So some of that was my fault on the last series. So we'll see if we can hopefully make it so that it's not, so it does well, you know, make my part well. But if I'm able to go in and confront the American fleet and sink it, then good, we're doing well, we're going to continue. Not saying you have to sink everybody out, but hit it hard enough that it goes away and this invasions are unsuccessful. If I can do that, we're going to continue. But if they, you know, even if, oh, well, you're controlling India and you're controlling China, and yeah, okay. But if I can't keep fleets afloat and at least confront where and when I need to, then I know it's a lost cause. And yeah, you might find it interesting to watch me fight to the last for, you know, Tokyo. But one thing I noticed by those kind of times, normally viewership goes way down, so you, whoever posting, might like that, but enough other people get bored with it. So that's one thing. And two, we've already determined that you're losing, you know. And I don't see a magic way. Then I will definitely take input, you know. Oh, well, and which one thing we will be doing is radar techs for the fleet, which Japan did do, but was always 3 or 4 steps behind the Americans. It was always, you know, poor. Beginning of the Pacific War, I'm sort of specific as opposed to the beginning of the war at China or whatever, but the beginning of the Pacific War for Japan, they had some radar, but it was very poor. And towards the end, they had, from some of the people that were captains of ships through the whole period, and well, started to be a bit more of a commodore towards the end, you know, commanding multiple ships. It was getting much better, but I do know that it never got up to American levels. So, like, I don't know how you sort of figure this, because you have both these levels 1 through 4, and then you come here and you have where is it? Small ship radar 1 through 3. So maybe they start the war with level 1 radar here and no levels here, and by the end of the war they've got maybe level 2 here or something, and I'm just, you know, guessing here, but, you know, 1 through 3, maybe, like, you know, level 1 here or something like that. You know, so Japan does get better as time goes on with its quality of its radar, both in the sense of how effectively is it picking up ships, you know, how much further, under what conditions, but also more effectively marking their positions. But if I remember from reading right, their early radars were of very little use for gunnery. You know, at night, they couldn't go, oh yeah, we see where they are, we're going to just shoot where the radar tells us. No, the radar was sort of like, oh, in that direction there's ships, or there's something, probably a ship or ships, you know, depending on how close they are together or something like that. Oh, yeah. Well, how far away is it? Well, it's not near, but it's not super far. And, you know, at night, that's not going to do anything. Well, what direction is it going? Well, we can't quite tell. We just sort of know it's there and it's moving, and, you know, so how far do you lead it? Where the American radar, especially by mid-war, I'm not talking late war, because some of the major ships and remember, the war in the Pacific goes well into 45. What is it, August 45 or something, as it's finally ending? You know, so 42 is early war for the Americans. 43 is, you know, still somewhat early war. So you're getting ships that are coming out of being repaired, or just getting some of the older capital ships just getting radar, like in 43. and one of them, I forget which one, it was in the Atlantic and it was heading to the Pacific, and it was given its radar in the U.S. in the sense that it was loaded on board the ship, meaning it wasn't installed, it was not working. They just, oh, here's the crates with the radar in it. Go to the Pacific, and by the time they get to the far Pacific, past, getting past Pearl Harbor or whatever, they have it installed. They got it locally installed, the radar, just with the crew on the ship on passage. So it wasn't always the most efficient thing, but the radar gunnery, and it was useful at night to know, oh yes, the ship's in that direction, it's X number of yards away, and it's going in we can plot it and tell it's going in its general speed and its general direction, so that then you can fire completely blind. Like, oh, they're on. Well, radar wouldn't be seeing surface targets on the far side of a mountain, of a island or something like that. But okay, something at night, we have no ability to put spotlights on it. We have no ability. They haven't, fired any guns to have gun flashes. But we can start somewhat accurately putting fire on a target. This was, by mid-war, the Americans were definitely able to do that with its radar. So it could shoot completely blind effectively. Not, because they're still, they have mechanical computers that you plug in the data, but they don't have computer systems that are getting the data electronically from measuring it all out and determining its speed and plugging it into the ballistic computer, that tells it where the gun's to point, doing all that like we would have in a modern system. Automatically it's like, oh yeah, we're plotting it, and it's because, and then because they do have gyroscopes, but they don't have computers. The idea to like go, oh yeah, well our gyroscope and our speed is we're going this way and it's coming speed relative in this direction, to figure all out. You've got to have somebody out there sort of plotting out, because we're moving in this direction at this speed. They're moving across the radar scope in this direction at that, so we calculate their speed to be and their direction to be, and they have to put all that into, manually humans have to work all that out, and then plug that data into the ballistic computers, and the ballistic computers then will tell it where to point the guns, based on the information put in. So of course it's nowhere near terribly accurate, but it is considerable, and you may not know whether you're hitting or not too well. So yeah, we're going to, of course, as I'm saying with all this, we're going to be, we need to, do we also get Army Group? Because 41 is too far ahead. Yes, Army Group. So we got reduced time between attacks. So, yeah, Air Force and Naval HQs. We're definitely going to try to not make some of those mistakes and have radar, but I don't know if we'll keep up with the Americans on that. And sure, if we get some secret weapon that would just allow us to take them all out, I would be willing to continue to play, but I don't see that as going to be a likelihood. That's more of a aspirational thing. Well, now you're going to support that attack there. Okay. Artillery unit training that, and of course Nationalist China just disappeared on us. Good. We'll deal with that in a second. Artillery unit training advanced. Very good. Okay, we're all at 37 for that with direct. Oh, that's direct. That's not what we were. Here we are, 38. 38. Do we get both of those? Yes. Oh, that allows us to do flexibility. So, yeah, we're going to stop both of these for the moment. I know we are in 39. But what I want to do, I think, unless it's, yeah, it's a 36 technology. We definitely want to get on artillery flexibility, which really helps speed. Well, it's only 0.2 of a, kilometer, whatever, per hour. But there's, up to 6 levels of it, and it helps with masterful delay and elastic defense and improves artillery, and so we want to do that for sure. And I do think before we continue here, though, we may want to continue. I don't know. We may. I think that should put it to the bottom. Okay, that's almost done, so we'll let that complete. If you're getting this done and it's not having a penalty to research, you might as well just complete it. We'll move that to the top to make sure it gets completed. Doing partisan suppression, that's good. Yeah, recon unit. That will help just about everybody. Okay, we've annexed the Republic of China, and we've won all these battles, and we've conquered them, and we can still form the Nanjing government. And we're going to end the episode here, because we can start the next episode checking out the effects, because I want to save this. I want to, I played Germany, well, if you count all the times I played 1936, I played literally a couple hundred times, just playing 1936 Germany and testing my mod, because I get halfway through 1936 and then replay it, and then have to reload it up. And so if you count not just loads, but to see if something would load, but play part way into 1936, I've played it hundreds of times. Now that doesn't mean hundreds of times to completion of the game, but 1936, I know of Germany, it gets to the point that I'm bored of Germany in 1936 because I played it way too many times when I've been testing. But this whole thing is new. I've watched it from playing in Germany, taking over the Nanjing government, but I want to see how it plays out with doing the Republic of Nanjing to see, and I'm decided to do it in front of you, which may mean reloading a few times, because you should know these things too, whether we want to go with, because I don't know if this is going to adjust. Okay, what do we have here? Minimum revolt risk of 2, but nationalism of 6, major defeat, that's just some of our units, so that would go away. So we would lose that. Send in the goon squads, which I don't know if we're going to lose ever, and whatnot. But so in here we're at 2. Not sure exactly why, but obviously we'll be facing a minimum of 2 revolt risk. So we'll have to determine whether it's better to keep the goon squads operating and direct control of it, or whether it's better to form the historical puppet governments. And we'll do that together, presumably next episode. So good reason to come back. And if you will, thanks for watching. Thanks for liking the videos, like if you will. And of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Love to see you around more often. They tell me that in YouTube school that I got to keep doing it. And of course, I really love hearing from you. So please post comments, questions, suggestions, what you found on some of these issues. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.